Hello, I'm Superintendent Manny Caulk, and I wanted to share with you that the narrative the governor attempted to spin about the Fayette County Public Schools in his budget address is factually misleading and untrue. His statements implied that our district is laden with administrative bloat and cash reserves when the very numbers he used reveal a different story. Of the 114 current Fayette County employees, not 120 as stated, with salaries more than $100,000, 63 individuals work in our schools and directly impact students on a daily basis. Of the 51 with district-level positions, 22 hold instructional roles that place them out in our schools routinely working alongside our teachers, our counselors, and principals to support classroom teaching and learning. And the other 29 provide critical district-wide operational support. To further place that figure in context, only 1.9% of the district's 5,944 full-time permanent employees earn more than $100,000, and only 4.1% of the district's spending on employee salaries goes to pay those making more than $100,000. The governor also suggested that districts are sitting on unreasonable reserves, when in fact Fayette County Public Schools has already reduced the contingency fund this year to intentionally place greater resources in our schools, including more teachers for our most vulnerable children, professional learning for our teachers, and textbooks for all students. Continuing to drain that account is neither a short-term nor a long-term solution. Fayette County's contingency fund is currently $31.5 million, which is 6.4% of the total operating budget. Now, the Kentucky Department of Education recommends school districts our size hold between 6 and 8%. To put that in terms of your household budget, the district's contingency fund would cover a little less than 1 month's operating expenses. The governor speaks of investing in the future of our children, while the collective impact of his budget proposal continues to disinvest in public education and moves the Commonwealth further from its constitutional mandate to providing an equitable and adequate education for all students. To continue to fund SEEK at the same levels we've seen since 2015 is to continue to underfund our classrooms. The fact remains that SEEK funding still hasn't bounced back from pre-recession levels. Transportation funding flows through SEEK, meaning the cumulative impact of the proposed transportation cuts equates to a $211 per pupil cut to SEEK. The proposed cut of 62% to state transportation funding, which had already been inadequate, would cost Fayette County Public Schools roughly $6.5 million. The elimination of professional development, community education, and textbook funding will be another $1.7 million decrease. The 6.25% cuts to state grants, including our family resource and youth service centers and preschool, amount to a reduction of additional $900,000. Although we have yet to see concrete proposals to let us gauge the district's increased costs for employee health insurance or shoring up the pension system, our preliminary estimates suggest those figures will be greater than $8 million. Although Governor Bevin took aim at us, one of the two state's largest school districts, in his comments, this is not about Fayette County. This is about every child in the Commonwealth and whether we have the collective will to ensure that our children's future is brighter than our present. At a time when districts across Kentucky are trying to close the achievement gap, the education cuts proposed, along with the lack of strategic investments, will leave children living in poverty, children of color, children learning English as a second language, and children with special needs further behind. Our schools are serving students with greater needs than ever before. In addition to education, the governor spoke during his budget address of significant needs to address opiate addiction, foster care, Medicaid, prison reform, and law enforcement in his budget comments. The children of Kentucky are the victims of those collective crises. The number of children living in poverty and experiencing trauma in our state is at record highs, and the impact of the governor's proposed budget would be to make the American dream even more elusive for them. Building a budget that reflects the values of our Commonwealth is a difficult task, and I applaud the governor for putting something on paper from which we can begin our conversations. As Fayette County Public Schools Superintendent, I stand ready to work collaboratively and transparently with our elected officials to tackle tax reform, budget deficits, the pension crisis in a comprehensive way that puts Kentucky education back on track.